Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Corombos of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad to have you with us for the Thursday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We actually do have good, bad, and crazy martinis today, but first, just a very quick update on Jim Garrity, who, if you're reading the Morning Jolt, you know that he is once again reporting from Ukraine. You're seeing his dispatches not only in the morning newsletter, but periodically on social media as well. Thought it was important to share this morning that he posted on Twitter, or X, or whatever we call it now, that he was in Kyiv last night when one of the more intense Russian bombings of the Ukrainian capital occurred. He is fine. We're happy to report, but here's a little bit of what he posted this morning.
Good morning from Kyiv, where last night the city came under a serious air attack from Russia. It was the first, I would characterize as a serious attack in the time that I've been here, a little bit more than a week, apparently the worst in months. Cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, drones, the works. As you can see behind me, I'm in the neighborhood of Podol, where apparently some debris landed on buildings and reportedly started fires, according to the mayor.
So again, Jim is fine, but of course, please keep praying for him and his safety, and of course, for all the Ukrainian people who have been through so much already, and now in more than 2 years of this war, and really going back a decade when you consider what the Russians did back in 2014. And so here in Jim's place today, once again, Jon Gabriel, longtime editor-in-chief at Ricochet.com. He is also a columnist with Discourse Magazine through the Mercatus Center and the Arizona Republic. Jon, always great to have you with us.
Great to be here, and Paul, we pray and hope the very best for Jim. I'm very thankful that I am in Arizona and not Ukraine right now. Difficult times there.
Absolutely. It takes a special breed to even want to go get the story. So grateful for Jim's willingness to do that. So let's jump to our good martini, and things a little less dire here in Washington, although there's plenty of things that seem that way. But let's go to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And at least for my money, Jon, my favorite senator questioning on the committee, and that's Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. It's weird to have a Kennedy that we like in the U.S. Senate, but we're getting used to it, right? And so we have John Kennedy talking to Nancy Maldonado, who is a district court judge in Illinois, and she is one of President Biden's nominees to advance to the appellate level. And so Senator Kennedy and his staff found a memo that Maldonado signed in an earlier job in which she thought that a ban on assault weapons would be appropriate. So now that Kennedy's actually calling her out on it, Jon, the memory, the obfuscating, the backpedaling here, just delicious. So take a gander at this.
You said, quote, assault weapons may be banned because they're extraordinarily dangerous and are not appropriate for legitimate self-defense purposes, close quote. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Just to clarify there, I was local counsel. Our Supreme...
Yeah, but you wrote the brief. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Senator Kennedy, actually, I did not write the brief. The brief was written by...
You signed the brief, though, didn't you?
Correct. I signed the brief.
When you sign a brief, you're testifying to the court that everything in it is true, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they're your words in terms of the court, right?
Well, you're correct, Senator Kennedy.
Okay.
I would never sign...
Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
So I am not a gun expert, and at the time, that brief, I think, was about 10 years...
Given the court advice about, say, ban assault weapons. What is... You told the court you were an expert. Just tell me what you wanted to ban.
Senator, sitting here today, as I said, I did not write that brief. I was local counsel.
Sign the brief.
I understand. At the time...
Tell me what you wanted to ban. That's all I want to know, Judge.
I don't remember the exact definition of assault weapons in the ordinance that was at issue.
Jon, it's so fun when they think they're in activist mode and they tell you exactly what they think, and then when it comes back to potentially hurt them, the memory just gets so fuzzy.
Yeah, and I just always like that. Well, first off, Kennedy, he's basically the Senate version of Matlock. It's just, forgive me, I'm just a simple country lawyer, but it seems to me, ma'am, just take the hit. All this I don't quite remember the language of the ordinance, and I didn't write it because I was the local counsel, and oh my gosh, it was weeks ago I wrote this. How could I possibly just say, look, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just want to ban scary-looking weapons, especially ones. I really don't like them if they have any kind of, black accoutrement, because that looks scary to me, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Can we please move to the next question? But instead, like very common with this, it's like she's trying to talk down to Senator Kennedy, who has likely far more education than she does, certainly far more experience and clarity of mind. He's a very highly educated senator, and you see this again and again with him, with these people just like, let me just tell this idiot senator what's what. And you can't answer basic questions. I'm sorry, if she wants to ban something, if you want to ban Chesterton's fence, figure out its purpose first. Why don't we update Chesterton's fence, that whole parable there? It's just very telling, once again, to just people through just throwing around these terms, not understanding what they are, not understanding weapons. And yes, certainly she was very accurate when she said she is not an expert on weapons.
Yes, exactly right. But I think we know exactly how the Senate should vote on this nomination, because we know she has an opinion. She just won't give it. And we know that her opinion is not in line with the Second Amendment. So way to go, Joe. These strict constructionists, I'm sure that he's lining up for the appellate court here.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our brand new sponsor, ZBiotics, because if all that Democratic tap dancing on gun rights makes you want to toss back a couple of drinks, make sure you take ZBiotics as your first drink of the night, and you'll wake up and feel much better than you otherwise would the next morning. ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic drink, and it's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking, and here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct and not dehydration that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night, to drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/3ml to get 15% off your first order when you use 3ml at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Visit zbiotics.com/3ml and use the code 3ml at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. All right, John, on to our bad martini now. And the Biden administration, in terms of its perception among the American people, really took a nosedive as a result of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and it's never recovered since. And the nosedive was completely justified, with Biden promising there would be no replay of Vietnam when the images were virtually identical. And we had former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, testifying before the House this week. And let's just say his comments are not at all reassuring. You got to realize at some point, I'm sure, that there's some professional butt covering going on here, to put it kind of bluntly. But the details that he does share are not at all encouraging. So first of all, under the questioning of Chairman Chris Smith of New Jersey, Chairman Smith wanted to know, hey, how about our Afghan allies? Whatever happened to them? Did some of them end up in prison or worse? And the answer is yes.
Are they in jail, dead, some of them?
I think some were killed. Afghans. I don't know about the Americans. I don't think the Americans were. But I think some of the Afghans were tracked down that worked with us. And I think some of them were killed. And I'm pretty certain some of them in pretty brutal ways. Some were managed to escape through various means. Others have just laid low and keeping their heads down.
He wasn't sure about the Americans, John. That always seemed a bit curious. So there was more detail on that, which doesn't provide us much more confidence.
Number of Americans. This was always an issue. The number of Americans, as John McKenzie said, an F-77 report is supposed to, every ambassador in every country of the world keeps an F-77 report, and they're supposed to track the Americans, where they're at, the phone numbers, address, et cetera, in the country. That was always a difficult number for us in the Department of Defense to get a hold of, and I think it's true at the tactical level and operational level as well. And I'll be candid. I don't know the exact number of Americans that were left behind because the starting number was never clear.
John, how much worse can it get than not knowing how many Americans are there, not knowing how many were left behind, and not knowing if any of them were killed by the Taliban?
Yeah, he knows very, very little about our Afghan allies and how many were brutally murdered in his terms. But he just knows nothing whatsoever about the Americans that we did, in fact, leave behind. People can only imagine their fate. Hopefully they were able to somehow extract themselves from the country over the years. But whether they do or not, the United States government just won't know, frankly, because they had such a frenzied reaction to pulling out. They didn't have due diligence, to say the least, and the entire plan was a mess from the start. You had military experts all over the place saying, why are we giving up Bagram Air Base? Why are we sending everybody to Kabul, which is not secure, which is a Taliban stronghold by the time they were trying to leave? We all saw the pictures. We all saw what happened. It was a complete mess. And once again, just our military, we need to have some basic confidence in our military. And that doesn't only include the troops on the ground, which I trust a great deal more than General Milley, but also the Pentagon, also the civilian leadership, that we have a plan, that we're tracking Americans, that we kind of present an image overseas that we know what we're doing. That's the last thing the U.S. military has been doing. It's just a complete embarrassment not to be able to deal with the situation where you have fighters with a 14th century mentality fighting with small arms, and we're completely flummoxed at how to deal with these very non-advanced fighters we're up against. It's just appalling.
It is appalling. And there was also testimony from General Kenneth McKenzie, who was CENTCOM commander at the time of the withdrawal. And quotes from his testimony included, if there is culpability in this attack, it lies in policy decisions, meaning the Abbey Gate attack. And he also says, when I received the order to withdraw the U.S. military, I was not ordered to plan to get U.S. citizens out, our allies out, or evacuate our embassy. So, I mean, that's an indictment of Biden. It's an indictment of Blinken. We had relatively contemporary accounts that people like Milley and maybe even General Austin said you should probably keep a small force there just to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible in the case the Taliban does advance quicker than they thought, which is exactly what happened. And so obviously the idea was, oh, it's going to be just fine. We don't need to plan for anything. And of course, they got caught with their pants down.
Yeah, completely. And also, as far as the Taliban moving in quickly, this is what always happens historically in Afghanistan. That's why people call it a graveyard of empires. If you read about in the 1800s with Britain, that's what happened. They had a complete firm hold on Kabul, a complete firm hold on Kandahar. And guess what? Without warning, at the time, Afghan forces swept in, devastated them, leading to untold slaughter, and once again, of the British, of their allies, anybody who they were fearing to collaborate with the British. This is a pattern. These people should understand these things. I'm just a guy stuck out here in the Sonoran Desert who runs across a book once in a while. And I knew that. The fact that these guys don't know that this is the way of warfare in Afghanistan, it's just revolting.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We have a family now in our neighborhood that is from Afghanistan. Delightful family. Our kids play with their kids all the time. And he served for 10 years as an interpreter embedded with U.S. Marines during the Afghan war. Thankfully, they got out before the fall of Afghanistan, but they have friends and family that got left behind, and they very, very much, wish to be back in their homeland. They're very grateful to be here because they don't want to endure what's happening there right now. And you can't necessarily promise that what was before in Afghanistan will never return, but to hand it over to them as you leave in those conditions was just utterly disgraceful. And it's good for the House Republicans for bringing this to light, because this needs to be chronicled in a very detailed way as a absolutely massive, massive failure on the part of this administration.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's talk about something much less stressful than that, and that is our fantastic sponsors over at 4patriots.com. 4patriots.com/martini, in fact, is where you want to go. And the best deal going right now is the free solar panel with the purchase of the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. They'll also give you free shipping on any order over $97. You've heard me talk about the Patriot Power Generator before and everything it does, the 12 outlets, the 4 AC, charging your phone 20 times faster than normal. The most important thing to know is you really want to have it when you need it, and you don't know when your power is going to go out. Well, unless you live in a deep blue state like California and they tell you when the rolling blackouts are going to happen or something like that. But nonetheless, this generator never needs gas. It's fume-free, it's silent, and it's safe. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Also, don't forget about the last chance items that you can get a good deal on from the Patriot Pure line, including the UV phone sanitizer, the UV wand, and the sanitation solution machine. Visit 4patriots.com/martini to get your Patriot Power Generator 2000X with the free solar panel included. Plus, get free shipping on orders over $97. Save more and get peace of mind now by going to the number 4patriots.com/martini. That's 4patriots.com/martini. All right, well, if you're a faithful listener to the 3 Martini Lunch, you are going to remember that last week when John was here, we talked about NBC having a conniption over the fact that some right-wing influencers were simply pointing out the fact that cannibalism exists in Haiti and that there may well be cannibalistic gangs, including one called the Cannibal Army. And there was also one gang leader known as Barbecue, and he didn't get that the way some folks in this country might get the nickname of Barbecue. But so the argument at the time, John, was that how dare these right-wingers make these ridiculous allegations? I mean, there's little hints that maybe there was some gang initiation things that made it seem like there was cannibalism. Maybe it was used as an intimidation tactic. And so the whole narrative back then was, how dare they accuse people in Haiti of doing this? Well, now the narrative has changed. The New Scientist, which I know you're a faithful subscriber of, writing this in defense of cannibalism. Actually, get this. Today, cannibalism is a taboo subject in many societies. Go figure. We see it as aberrant, as is clear in films such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We associate it with zombies, psychopaths, and serial killers like the fictional Hannibal Lecter. Positive stories of cannibals are few and far between. But perhaps, of course, it's time for a rethink, because despite our preconceptions, evidence is accumulating that cannibalism was a common human behavior. Our ancestors have been eating each other for 1 million years or more. In fact, it seems that down the ages, around 1/5 of societies have practiced cannibalism. While some of this people eating may have been done simply to survive, in many cases, the reasons look more complex. In places like Guff's Cave, for example, consuming the bodies of the dead seems to have been part of a funerary ritual. Far from a monstrous affront to nature, cannibalism may be a way of showing respect and love for the dead, say some archaeologists. And so, John, you just can't let your stupid narrative die. You got to go in this direction now. And I don't know, maybe they're preparing us for a massive food shortage. We keep hearing rumors of that soon. But the idea that we don't have enough positive stories of cannibalism really is taking this to a unique level.
Yeah, the bright side of cannibalism. Maybe Hollywood can get on that. That could be the next trend. Remake movies, but now everyone's a cannibal. It's just insane. And once again, it's this pattern that's just become a joke on the right because it's just noticeable. It's, no, this isn't happening. How dare you notice this is happening? Okay, it's happening, and it's good that it's happening. We see this just again and again, and now you have people simping for cannibals, which is fascinating in and of itself. Feels like Back to the Future a little bit here. It's just crazy to see these people try to handle this as, oh, look at the rich and lovely diversity of humanity, and how dare we judge these people. And, you know, when you think about it, it's a real honor to be eaten by, relatives or admirers. It's just absolute insanity. First they tried, hey, you got to eat the bugs. Well, apparently this is what comes after the bugs.
We know there's that old punctuation question of how important commas are, and it's let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma. Well, apparently we've been not allowing for enough diverse thought here. But apparently we got to go back and watch Night of the Living Dead and realize we've been cheering for the wrong side all this time.
Exactly. They were just honoring those few people hidden in the cabin trying to survive. And I just want to note, I looked at a calendar recently, and the year is 2024, and we're debating positives, the pros and cons of eating people. So how's the Biden administration going, John? Well, okay. Cannibalism hasn't completely been accepted yet, but we're working on it.
If we can't agree on this, it's going to be pretty hard to agree on many other things. But hey, they're just misunderstood folks who are eating the flesh of other humans. I don't know how to top that crazy martini tomorrow, John, but we're certainly going to try. I'll see you then.
All right, see you then.
Jon Gabriel is the longtime editor-in-chief at Ricochet.com, columnist for the Discourse magazine with the Mercatus Center and the Arizona Republic. He's the undisputed king of stuff, of course, as well. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Jim Garrity is away, as you heard at the beginning of our podcast. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your kind reviews and your 5-star ratings. Those are a huge help to us. Please keep them coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us all on X. John is at EXJON. Jim is at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Thursday and join us on Friday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.